Welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Tuesday, the 23rd day of Kislev. And today we finish the first chapter of the Tanya, the second part. Let's begin with Tzedakah. Gedela Tzedakah, Shemekarebes Esageula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. So yesterday we discussed about what is a tzaddik, what is a rasha, and what is a beinoni. We said that the Alter Rebbe calls this book of Tanya Sefer Shel Beinonim, the book of the intermediate, and is guiding us how to become what is realistic to us to become an intermediate. And he explained that the Beinoni, the intermediate person, is someone who does not commit any sin whatsoever. Because otherwise, that great sage Rabbah wouldn't mistakenly consider himself a Beinoni. However, says the Alter Rebbe, we do find in the Talmud, even in the Torah, sometimes the term tzaddik is used for a person who has more virtues than sins. Says the Alter Rebbe, that's not really the actual term tzaddik. It is just, he calls it shem hamushal, borrowed terms. The real tzaddik is a person who does not have any evil intentions at all. The reason we call the person tzaddik is that's a borrowed term. You say, sometimes you see a child doing something nice. Oh, what a tzaddik, what a righteous person. But it's not really righteous, not in the level of a righteous person. A real righteous person there's very few of them. Those are people who completely eliminated their evil inclination. But then the Alter Rebbe is going to explain, he started to explain in this chapter, who are we? And how can we work on ourselves to become the Beinoni, to become the person who is in full control? In order to do that, will take time, take a number of chapters, but he'll begin to explain the concept of the fact that every Jew has not one, but two souls. You have the animalistic soul, the soul that has its selfishness, the instincts, just like an animal in a way. And then we have the godly soul. Today he's going to focus on the animal soul, the animalistic soul of the Jew. So let's begin inside, see what Alter Rebbe says. Amarim ba'alme, the mechzu al mechzu mikra beinoni v'rov schiyas mikra tzaddik. For as to the well-known saying that one whose deeds and misdeeds are equally balanced is called a Beinoni, while he who has a majority of virtues outweighing his sins is called a tzaddik. That, says the Alter Rebbe, that's only a borrowed name for a tzaddik. Hu shem hamushal, it is only a borrowed name, meaning it's a figurative use of the term borrowed from its true usage in order to emphasize a particular point. Thus the names Beinoni and Tzaddik, denoting a balance between merits and sins, are in fact but a borrowed names. And we use it le'inyan sechar v'onesh, used in regard to reward and punishment, lefi shenidon acharu bo, because one is judged according to the majority of his deeds. Umikra tzaddik bedinoi ma'achar shezeicha badin, and he is termed righteous in reference to his verdict, since he is acquitted at his trial. So that's why we just use the name tzaddik, which is righteous, just to say that the person came out acquitted. He was acquitted in the trial. However, when we're talking about the real If, however, we seek to truly define the distinct qualities and ranks of tzaddikim and beinanim, to understand what is true tzaddik, says the Alter Rebbe, what our sages say, that the tzaddikim are fully judged only by the good inclination. Our sages have remarked that the righteous are judged by their good nature. What does that mean? They're motivated and ruled solely by the good nature. As it is written, and my heart is a void within me. King David said that the heart was void in him. What does that mean? Meaning that he, David, the author of the verse, was devoid of an evil nature, having slain it through fasting. So he reached that level to be the tzaddik, that no longer did he have any evil at all, any evil desires at all. That's the real term of a tzaddik. However, anyone who did not reach that level is not really in the true meaning of a tzaddik. But whoever has not attained this degree of ridding himself of his evil nature, even though his virtues outnumber his sins, he's not at all at the level of in the rank of a tzaddik. And in fact, says the Alter Rebbe, it's not at all a tzaddik, not even a beinani. Because like we said before, a beinani, an intermediate, is a person who has no sins whatsoever. The only difference is the beinani may have the desires to do sins. A tzaddik doesn't even have a desire to do sins. ולכן אמרו חז"ל במדרש רואה הקדוש ברוך הוא בצדיקים שהם מועטים עמדו שסולם בכל דור ודור וכו'. This is why our sages have expounded. The Almighty saw that the righteous were few, so he arose and planted them, meaning he spread them in every generation, because every generation must have a tzaddik in order to be able to sustain. As it is written, that tzaddik is the foundation of the world. So indeed we have very few tzaddikim, but every generation has one. The Rebbe, person on that level, is a tzaddik. So now that we understood the basic difference based on the sources of what is a tzaddik, what is a beinani, what is a rasha, that a tzaddik is a person without evil at all. Beinani is a person that controls his evil. Rasha is a person that actually acts not good. Now we need to really understand how it works in us. What is it that makes us reaching that level, and how can we work on ourselves to be in the level of a beinani? So for that, the Alter Rebbe begins with stating the fact that every Jew has two souls. It's not just two inclinations, but it's two separate identities. He has the godly soul with all of its faculties, and he has his animalistic soul. However, the explanation of the matter, so that we better understand the levels of tzaddik and beinani, as well as various gradation within their ranks. This is to be found in light of what Rabbi Chaim Vital wrote in Shahar HaKedusha. He is the student of the Harizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, and in Eitz Chaim, Portal 50, Chapter 2. And he writes as follows: and every Jew, whether righteous or wicked, possesses two souls. And he brings it from the verse, as it is written, and neshamas, souls, which I made them, which I have made. Souls which I have made. I mean, souls plural. Of course, you can ask that this can refer to souls of many Jews. Each one has one soul. However, the verse really talks about, the beginning of the verse talks about a singular person. Veruach milfanaya tof. In the spirit of man which emanates from me will be humbled. That is the beginning of the verse. So we're talking about a singular person, and yet it goes on to say, and souls I have made. Based on this verse, it says the Arizal that really every Jew has two separate souls. Shem shtei nefashos, these are two nefashot, two souls and life forces. The nefesh talks about this general term of the souls. Neshama could be in a certain level of the soul. But here is saying in general, the general souls, there are two souls. And he begins by explaining the first soul. What is the first soul? Is the one that we are born with. The animalistic soul that comes from the klipa, from the shell, from the other side. What does it mean, a shell? What does it mean, the other side? A shell covers what's inside it. You have an orange, the fruit is covered by its shell. You can't see the orange unless you peel off the shell. The other side refers to anything which is not godly, anything which is not holy. So you have the holy side and you have the other side. Because anything that is not godly, that is not holy, it's already the outside of the holiness. And it doesn't have its own side. It just says it's other than the holy. Because holiness really is the only true existence. God is the only true existence. Anything that is not godly is already the other side. So it says, Nefesh achas mitzad klipa v'sitracha. One soul originates in the klipa and sitra acha, the other side. Now this soul, God created it, and He placed it in this physical world with its limitations, with its shell. And it is in each and every one of us. It is clothed in the blood, which vivifies the entire body. And anything that we want, anything that it's basically, like we said, we call it the animalistic soul, because anything, it is self-centered. Whatever is good for us, we do. We eat, we drink, we want to feel good, we want to do something that makes us feel good. And this nefesh, which originates in the klipa and sitra achra, the other side, that is clothed in the blood of a human being, giving life to the body. As it is written, for the nefesh of the flesh, meaning the nefesh that sustains physical and corporal life, is in the blood. But Alter Rebbe now, that from that soul, they emanate all kinds of, the stem from that soul, the evil characteristics. He says there's 4 evil elements which lead and stem from them. From them there stems different characteristics, as he is going to list soon. From this nefesh stems all the evil characteristic deriving from the 4 evil elements within it. So, for example, he says, namely, anger and pride emanates from the elements of fire which rises upward. So just like you have the elements of fire, air, and water, and earth, you have them also in the spiritual sense. So the element of fire is something that boasts, goes up, and that is That is why it is a source of the characteristics of anger, of an arrogance. The appetite for pleasure emanates from the element of water. The water promotes the growth of all kinds of pleasurable things. The ability of water to make pleasurable things grow indicates that concealed within it is the element of pleasure. Thus, the appetite for pleasure derives from the element of water. Then you have other characteristics. You have boastfulness, scoffing, idle talk, and frivolity. This comes from air. So it's like air is nothing in there. There's no substance, doesn't lack substance. So when you're boastful, there's a difference between being arrogant and being boastful, by the way. When you're arrogant with something you possess. Boastful is somebody just boastful without anything to show for. So it says, frivolity and scoffing, boasting, and idle talk emanate from the element of air, like air that lacks substance. And finally, you have the fourth element, the element of earth, which is heavy, sluggish. So any laziness, sadness is from that element of earth. And sloth and melancholy emanate from the element of water, of earth. Earth is characterized by heaviness. A man encumbered by sloth and melancholy likewise senses the heaviness of the limbs. So those are the not good characteristics that they stem from these four elements. Now the Rebbe goes on to say that there's also this these four elements can also produce by a Jew the good characteristics. Why? Because the shell of the Jewish soul is called klipas noiga. It's a shell that allows also the light to penetrate. There could be also good things. There's also natural, innate good natures that a Jew can do. Now, there are many people who do good, Jew or non-Jew. But if you think about it, anyone who does good, there's some kind of ulterior motive. Why do you do good? Why do you give charity? Why do you help people? So there may be many reasons. Some people do it because they want to be famous. Some people do it, they're going to be recognized. They want to be recognized. Some people do it because it makes them feel good to see that they hate seeing somebody else suffer. But ultimately, it is their desire to do something good. It makes them feel better to help other people. So that is a normal thing, really, because that's the way we are created. There's exceptions. And that is true by the Jewish people and also by the righteous Gentiles as well. That the real altruistic desires to do good, and that is something that really is what we are working on, is to perfect the world to become altruistic. To do good because that's the right thing to do. The difference would be when you want to do something good, you want to help somebody, you want to give somebody some food, some clothing, something, and you see the person has nothing, and then you're about to give him, and you realize somebody else already gave him. So if you do it for your own satisfaction, then you feel bad. You didn't fulfill your doing good. But if you do it for altruistic reason, you really care for the person, and somebody else helps him, you'll be happy. Say, wow, that's amazing. So that's what Alter Rebbe says. There is the good nature. By nature, the Jewish people have that thing, which is really good, and that also comes from the animalistic soul. says that v'gam midas tovas shebeteva kol Yisrael b'toldoisam k'merachmanus v'gmilas chasadim b'os mimena. From this soul stems also the good traits inherent in every Jew's character, such as compassion and benevolence. But since this is a nefesh of klipa and evil, how do good characteristics come from it? Says the Alter Rebbe, Ki b'Yisrael nefesh udi klipa im klipas noiga sheyesh bo gam kin toiv v'im yisoid eitz hadas tov v'ra. For in the case of a Jew, this soul of klipa, of the shell, is derived from the klipa called noga. Noga means light, that allows the light to shine, which also contains good. And the good within this nefesh gives rise to these positive natural traits. So this klipa is from the esoteric tree of knowledge, which is comprised of good and evil. The souls of the nations of the world, however, emanating from the other unclean klipas, which contain no good whatsoever, as it is written in Eitz Chaim, Portal 49, chapter 3, that all the good that the nations do is done out of selfish motives. And again, that's something which doesn't mean that people act bad. It could be many who act very good, but ultimately it is for a selfish motive. But like we said before, there's also exceptions. People are really righteous Gentiles. They are refined, and they also can have something which comes from the klipas nega. So the Gemara comments on the verse, the kindness of the nations is sin. And all the charity and kindness done by the nations of the world is only for their self-glorification. And this is the end of chapter 1. The Alter Rebbe gives us the understanding what is the animalistic soul, the first soul. And tomorrow, chapter 2, Alter Rebbe is going to begin to explain what is the godly soul. And today, at night, we don't study Torah after sunset. Make sure to study it, listen to it before sunset or after midnight. All the best, and we'll see you B'ezrat Hashem tomorrow.